Hi folks, welcome to The Well, a Kingdoms of Amalur podcast brought to you by the community at 38watch.com. My name is Derek, also known as Rek, and today I'm joined by Bill and Rachel. You may know them as Bossner and Narria around the community. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a bit of basic information about us. I myself am mainly an MMO player, and EverQuest is my favorite. I have a YouTube channel where I make EverQuest videos, and I'll be in charge of the social media for this podcast. Bill is a veteran of games such as EverQuest 1 and 2 and World of Warcraft. He makes Kingdoms of Amalur gameplay videos on YouTube. He was part of the team that brought you the Reckoning ability calculator, and he's a contributor to the Watch Wiki. Rachel is also an avid MMO player. She spent the most time in EverQuest, World of Warcraft, The Old Republic, and Dark Age of Camelot. She writes a journal about her Reckoning character over at 38watch, where she's a moderator, and she's also a contributor to the Watch Wiki. On this episode of The Well, we'll be talking about the upcoming Reckoning downloadable content, the strategy guide, the Day of Reckoning livestream event, a Project Copernicus map, and a PC mod that increases the difficulty of Reckoning. So, guys, what is your vision for the podcast?
What I'd like to see is something that encompasses all of Kingdoms of Amalur, whether that is video games, and that can be broken down further into Reckoning sequels, RTS games, the MMO, and even things like books, comics, anything, movies, shows, anything that encompasses anything to do with it, whether that's the actual products themselves, the community surrounding them, the developer standpoint, history of it, anything that encompasses it, we're going to talk about it.
All right, so you guys can expect a lot of varied information coming from us. Do you have anything to add, Rachel?
Yeah, I think one of my real main focuses is making sure that we are highlighting the community. I think that from the beginning, we have seen a strong community presence surrounding this IP, and already there's been a lot of really great stuff that has come out of the community. And so my goal is that we are able to sort of bring that stuff to light, especially stuff that may not have been seen by a lot of people, being able to take those sort of gold nuggets that we find and make them much more public and available to the community is something that I am hoping to see happen.
I'm the same way.
If I could actually add something to that, giving back is something that I'd like to do as well. Mm-hmm. I think we're in a real good position to get in at the ground floor, and that gives us the opportunity to shape without manipulating the community. And that if you look at a couple of online communities, they're unfocused and they're, for lack of a better term, not very well behaved. I think that we can really become not idols, but sort of role models in how we want this community to be. And giving back is a real big part of that.
Good stuff. So, moving on, let's get to our first topic, the DLC, Legend of Dead Kale. Thoughts?
I'm excited that it's pirates.
Yeah.
that's about as much as I haven't looked too deeply into it because I'm super excited to just discover stuff on my own. So I don't read up too much. Pretty much what I've read is what 38 Studios has posted on their website, and I am just so excited that they're doing something pirate themed. I love pirates. I think it'll be really cool. So I'm super excited to see the new stuff that they're gonna uncover with it.
Yeah, Rachel's a bit of she likes to take the game slow. Or on the other hand, I beat the game in the first few days, so I'll be ready for DLC right as it releases, which is March 30th, I believe. March 20th, excuse me.
20th, yep.
And that's 800 Microsoft points on Xbox, and it's $10 on Steam, PlayStation.
I'm actually I'm excited for the potential to be seeing the Dwarven race.
Oh, yeah.
They're sorely missed. I see in Amalur the gnomes sort of taking the typical mining Scottish accented approach that most people take for dwarves. And so it's it's sort of heartbreaking, but at the same time interesting to see them possibly going into a different direction.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was hard for Bob Salvatore to do that. Well, maybe it wasn't hard, but one of his main characters was the what's the word, archetypical dwarf, accented and gruff and tough, and worked underground and everything like that. So it's interesting to see what role they're going to play and how they're going to make them twist them to stand out.
Have you seen something that leads you to believe they're going to be dwarves in the DLC? Because, like I said, I haven't read anything beyond the page that they have up on their own website. So
there's a new dungeon type that I'm guessing it's Verga. The D might be silent, or Dverga. That doesn't make sense. Verga. I'm going to go with until someone corrects me. The Verga fastings. I don't know what they mean by new dungeon type. I'm assuming that they're classifying a type as the space that they're in. So we have like the Stone Candle Mines at the very beginning of the game. They're purple and sort of fluorescent colors and things like that. So I'm thinking that a new dungeon type is just going to be a new setting for dungeons, and then there'll be multiple within that. The keeps all kind of look similar to the Well of Souls at the beginning. They all have the same gates and the same floors and things like that. So I'm guessing that's what it's going to be. We might not actually see the actual NPCs, but even if we just get some architecture, it's more than we've got in Reckoning.
Right.
So
I just got to say, the artwork they did for this is really cool. And I'm very excited about where this IP continues to go with its artwork, game covers and stuff. I'm not sure who did that painting, but
actually, you're talking about the pirate skull?
Yeah, on the ship with the town behind him.
There's the we'll get to this later, but the Copernicus map that's sort of got leaked. Part of the what was that, a newscast? The newscast for that was shooting over the shoulder of whoever the artist was that was drawing that. So you see him working on his tablet.
Oh, cool.
So we might be able to actually go and check out the video, and then, who is this? And then someone can answer, perhaps.
Yeah, I'll have to watch that again.
I agree. I think the artwork is awesome. And looking at this picture that they have on the page for The Legend of Dead Kel, just looking at that picture makes me so want a comic book. Like, I've never wanted a comic book before, but whoever did that art, man, if they did a whole comic book, I would snatch it up in a second. I really do love. I do love it as well. I think it's really great artwork.
Do you know what it reminds me of is the original first few EverQuest cover arts. I absolutely love those, and they kind of dropped the ball after that. I think the original artist might have passed away.
Speaking of cover art, I'm very excited for 38 Studios to get their own con where they have to hire a model to dress like Alan Shearer.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Did we count down how many minutes it took for us to get to that point where we're talking about females scantily?
It's like,
because it didn't take us that long.
Well, actually, there was that forum post that was thankful for it. So we'll make sure to draw the attention to these scantily clad females for our male audience.
Yeah.
You guys got anything else on the DLC?
Actually, small thing. Evidence to Boggarts being the Murlocs of Amalur. They're making an appearance in it as a slightly alternate looking thing. I'm looking at one of the screenshots now, and they appear to be stone Boggarts. So I definitely think that they're going to be the nuisance mob of the whole IP,
which is okay.
Oh, I love the Boggarts. They're that annoying small little.
You love to hate them.
Yeah.
Yep.
But they're iconic.
Oh yeah, for sure. They definitely will be probably one of the most iconic things in the game.
So let's talk about the strategy guide next. I just got mine today, so I really haven't had a lot of time to look through it.
It's very heavy and big.
Yes, very heavy.
Can be used as a blunt weapon if so needed.
Yeah. It's almost too heavy. It's like a wrist workout.
Absolutely.
I'll stay PG, but
I was happy to see that it's actually like 600 pages exactly. And I kept seeing that listed on websites. I was wondering if that was like an estimate. It's a 600-page book.
With pictures, full color pictures, which you would think with ink costs that it would be a little more than $20-$25.
Yeah, the only other strategy guide I've ever gotten was Final Fantasy IX one. And that was like a little magazine, compared to this monster.
Yeah, same with me. One I got in the past was just basically a paper. Certainly like a little magazine compared to this, but I do agree that this is definitely a good, like 38 Studios and Future Press, setting this really awesome precedent of this is a really important thing to us and very valuable in many ways, and we want to make sure as many people as can get their hands on it. So we're not going to make it this extraordinarily expensive thing. We're going to make it something that hopefully everyone can get and use. And to me, just, I have not read through it from cover to cover. I've mostly looked at a lot of the art and a few places where I've actually used it to help me in the game. It just is so much more than just a strategy guide. I know a couple of days ago, Moonguard posted on the forums about, there's a section in here that's completely dedicated to lore. And I think that's the thing that I love about it the most is that it's not just to help me get through the game. It's help me explore the world of Amalur and help me get to know the people and the places and all that kind of stuff better. And I think that's what I love the most about it is it's so much more than just a strategy guide.
Mm-hmm.
And to actually take that a step further, a lot of the people on the forums were saying, or in the forums and then just really about strategy guides in general, why would you buy one in the days of the internet? I could just for free, and I don't even have to drive to the store. I Google, go to GameFAQs, go to somewhere and find out a walkthrough or even a cheat sheet for the game. And, why would I buy a strategy guide? But you actually look through it. And like you said, it's so much more. It's lore. It's the actual maps and everything. But on top of that, there's even things like going down to the detail of actually theory crafting some stuff. It gives you the breakdowns for what daggers do. And it gives you things that are well beyond what you would find in a standard walkthrough. It's not just a walkthrough. It gives you, for example, I was flipping through, I saw that it gives you the breakdown of how fast weapons wear down. You're not going to typically find that in your standard GameFAQs or whatever website walkthrough or cheat guide. So for a strategy guide, it's very much not. I could just Google that to find out. Sure, you can, but it's going to take people a lot of time to compile the theory crafting to do this. And the nice thing is, it also confirms a lot of stuff that people were saying on the forums. Certain weapons being not necessarily overpowered, but stronger than others in certain situations and things like that. So it's not your typical strategy guide where, hey, this is the level, this is how you beat it, and this is where the hidden items in the level are. It really gives you a lot more meat, and it gives you, in a way, some insight into the game development, mind of Big Huge, where you can kind of sort of see, oh, that's why and how they designed it that way, versus this is the map.
So I'm interested to hear what you guys think. I was just thinking about this. This is the first strategy guide that they've put out. Obviously, this is their first game. Do you think that they are like setting the bar really high for themselves? Because now expectations are set when the next game comes out, be it the MMO or Reckoning 2. They're going to hopefully put another guide out. They're going to have to do something as equal to this, if not better, to meet expectations of people. And do you think that they set the bar a little bit high for themselves in putting out something so sort of grandiose?
Well, I see. Here's the thing. I don't look at 38 Studios as a video game company. When I think Blizzard, they do some books and they do some other stuff, but they're primarily a video game company. And I'm sort of guessing here, but I think that Todd and Bob and all the visionaries that they have, I think their roles sort of were a little bit, I don't want to say overstated, but I think that they took a little bit of a muted approach to Reckoning. I think that they're more there in a capacity for when the time comes to do something outside of video games. I mean, they've all said it. They want to do books, comic books, figurines. So if we look at the collector's edition, the troll statue, if we look at, the lithographs and the soundtrack and the quality of the actual collector's edition, the die, the map, and then we look at the strategy guide, I don't think it's them setting the bar so much as it's them just putting out a good product. And and the strategy guide is kind of a supplement to Reckoning, but knowing that they want to put out books and things like that, I really see it as them saying, this is the quality of stuff that you're going to get. And I mean, we can call it setting the bar, but I think that because they're gamers as well, and they're not a company that's looking at like a bottom line, we need to make these investors happy, that they're putting out products that they themselves want to buy. And I think that that's important. It's really why I have so much faith in them and why I'm putting so much time into it. As an aside, Copernicus is my last hope for MMOs. If I don't enjoy that, I mean, and it's no fault of any other games. It's just not what I'm interested in. So for me, if anybody can do products right, it's going to be 38 because they have the diversity and the know-how to do so many things. And if it just turns out that video games are not their thing, but they're putting out amazing other things, I'll still, there's so many things that they can do. And I'm not saying that, video games obviously are what I want the most from it, but I don't know if they're necessarily setting the bar. I think it's more of, this is what you guys are going to get because this is what we want to get.
I actually think that the next strategy guide will be better.
You think?
I think what happened was, Future Press maybe didn't expect it to be as big and as much work as it was. I mean, obviously it didn't make it out in time for the game release. So I'm thinking like the next game, that's going to be a big goal. Like the guide is going to be out and ready on release day. And maybe they'll have more time to polish it. I mean, it's a great book and I've only had it for a couple hours, but I did notice a couple spelling errors, like the table of contents. One thing I looked up, it was actually the wrong page. They listed it was like 5 pages away. Not a big deal, but there is room for improvement. I expect we'll get that.
Something that I actually got chewed out on the forums a little bit when I was talking about the problems, or maybe the problems with Reckoning, is that from my point of view, I'm not playing Reckoning. I'm not reading the Reckoning strategy guide. I'm playing a Kingdoms of Amalur product. And for me, it is all encompassing the same thing. Reckoning has its problems and the strategy guide has their problems, but as far as I'm concerned, they're worth the money and my time because of the surrounding field of products that they're going to have. When they have a huge catalog like Blizzard, yes, you judge them on the individual things, but you also judge the franchise, in my opinion, as the whole thing. And for me, it might be a little early, a little bit premature to say that this is going to be the next super huge franchise, but in my mind, it could already be. And when I look at the strategy guide and I look at the game, I see the whole picture and I see where Reckoning fits in. So I sort of look maybe above the technical details where, okay, I'm one-shotting guys, but I'm still in that story where, okay, it's not really challenging per se, but I'm reading an interactive book almost. And for me, for me, that's good enough. And I might get called a fanboy for that. It wouldn't be the first time, but for me, that's almost good enough. So as long as Rachel said something before, that they have the knowledge and the effort to put into these products, but I also think they have the love and they have that really strong desire just to see what they're putting out be received really well. And I think that there's just that slight touch of personalization and all the stuff that they've done. When you're in Reckoning, you're even in the guide that was written by a different company. You feel that sort of connection with them, where you can kind of see like, I see where a person did this. Some video games, it's computer generated. You're just kind of like, oh, okay. But in Reckoning especially, you can see where someone touched the world in that area a little bit. And so for me, the strategy guide is just an extension of that.
Wow, I could not agree more with what you said. It's definitely, for the two products they've put out, you can definitely tell that everyone there has a real deep love for this IP.
Yeah, two things stand out in my mind. Todd getting up on the table at, I can't remember, was it Comic-Con?
It might have been. It was a while ago.
I believe it was Comic-Con.
Yeah, him doing that, and I can't remember at PAX last March or whenever it was, last year, 2011. I can't remember if it was Bob or not. I don't remember if he was there. Someone said that the hook to Amalur, the one thing that sets it apart is it's a world that you want to save.
Right.
And for me, that's the big thing.
Right.
Is that it's a world I want to save, but then on top of that, it's a community that I want to be a part of. And so, and that's supplemented by the products that they're putting out.
Right.
And I think the strategy guide is a fine example of what they're willing to go above and beyond. And I think Reckoning, they tried to go above and beyond. Some things worked, some things didn't work, some things fell through the cracks. But I think that like the direction they're heading in is good. And if there's one thing to take away from Reckoning, it's that. And you might feel like you got screwed of $60, or you might think it's only worth $30. But I think that, and this is what I said in the forum post that I got chewed out on, it shows that they're aware of what makes a good game, and they just need a little bit of time and practice to get it. The strategy guide, I think, is and even the collector's editions, they know what people want and they know how to do it. It's just a matter of getting it done.
And gosh, all you have to do is watch Curtin and interview, and you cannot help but, I mean, the man is like giddy anytime he gets in front of a camera and talks about this IP.
Yeah, I almost felt bad for him when he was on Jimmy Fallon. That he had like a 4-minute clip, and 2.5 of it was talking about the Red Sox winning the World Series. And
it's okay to talk about the Red Sox winning the World Series. We're okay with that.
I was waiting for him to just kind of stop Jimmy from talking about it and go, okay, let's talk about why I'm here.
Right. All right, so do we want to talk about the giveaway that we have now?
I think this is a good time, unless somebody has something else they really want to say about the guide.
That sounds good.
So we have an extra copy of the strategy guide that we want to give away to one of our listeners. And really, this is just a way for us to sort of give back to the community, which is something we're going to try and do often with this show. So all you need to do to be able to qualify for getting the strategy guide is just leave us feedback on our website, which is thewellpodcast.com. And you can read all of our show notes there. And then we would love to know what you guys want to hear us talk about, because ultimately this podcast is for you guys to be able to get information that you couldn't have gotten otherwise. So let us know what you want us to talk about. We would be more than happy to talk about those things. And then we will just randomly pick one person from all of the feedback that we get. And we will send them a strategy guide. So that's exciting. I'm excited to give it away. I'm excited to put it in the hands of someone who might not already have it or might not be able to get it. So it's a cool thing.
You heard it here. Rachel is very excited to give it away.
Oh man. No. I knew being the only girl in this show was eventually that didn't take long either. Boy, hope we get it all.
That's what she said.
Hope we get it all out in this one. Oh my goodness. All right. Moving on.
Is Union going to edit that out?
Yeah. All right, Derek, what's our next topic?
This is fun. So, for anybody that doesn't know, on release day, a guy who calls himself Day 9 got all these various streamers, there were about 10 of them, to all play the game and stream it. And it's very successful. Thousands of people watched. 38 Studios gave away thousands of dollars worth of stuff. Games, computers, trip to the studio, all kinds of neat stuff. And another thing they did at the very end of the day was put up a poll so you vote for, your very favorite streamer from that day. And they'll get a voiceover in the MMO, which is a pretty cool opportunity. But it looks like Day 9 is probably going to win that.
I think it's over now, isn't it? Like, they pretty much just,
yeah,
he won by a landslide, so I don't think anyone could come back. But I'm pretty sure it was just like one 24-hour period after they put up the poll that they ran it for. But yeah, he definitely won by a lot. He was the popular person that day.
Yeah, the only other person who came close was Total Biscuit, who I was voting for because he has such a unique voice, which I really would have been ecstatic to hear in the game. But Day 9 definitely deserves it, though, because he put the whole day together.
And I don't think they were planning on doing that ahead of time. I think just something came. I'm trying to remember if I watched a lot of it, and I think at some point something came up during the day that led them to think it would be a cool idea to put up this poll. So I think it's kind of nifty that they sort of rolled with what the people wanted as the day went on, and it sort of became evident. There was some conversation about how cool it would be to be a voice in the MMO, and 38 was just like, yeah, let's do this. And that I thought was awesome. That they just really pay attention to what people are talking about, and they're quick to respond to that. And that was one of the things I loved about it was just sort of a random last minute thing that they decided to do. And I thought that was really cool.
Well, he's just got to be careful. They might want to, everybody's thinking of these grandiose ideas where he's going to be maybe a faction leader. They could have him turn around and voice a level 1 guy that millions of people kill on the very first quest of the game.
He'd probably love that too.
Yeah. Hey, that's, what, your voice is in the game. You're a part of something, special.
I think it also shows off like what we can maybe expect from the community in the future. Like community giving back. Day 9 put that whole thing together, and that was incredible. And it led to all this other stuff. Like, very excited for just the whole IP and community and everything.
Right.
You guys have anything else to say about the Day of Reckoning?
I don't want to make this too much about the MMO, but with how much they did for Reckoning, I am super stoked to see what they do for the Copernicus.
Oh yeah!
Oh my gosh!
Because if they, it just the volume that they're going to get. I shouldn't say nobody. A lot of people didn't know about Reckoning on launch day, and they're going to know about Copernicus when that launches.
Right.
It's going to be a big thing. So I can't wait to see what happens for that.
Right, for sure.
My favorite part of that day was watching Felicia Day on Day 9s. I'm just throwing that out there.
I'll be honest, I have no idea who that is.
Have you ever seen the Guild?
You don't know who Felicia... Oh, man.
Oh, my. You need to go have yourself a Guild marathon.
Go to YouTube and watch the Guild from the beginning, because it is probably one of the most awesome web series that there is out there. Felicia Day also did a web series for Dragon Age as well.
Yeah, I watched the first episode. I'm hoping Felicia Day becomes a big Kingdoms of Amalur fan, and then get her on here.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yep.
Yeah, Drek will be real talkative. I keep calling you Drek. I did it in one of the videos I uploaded on YouTube today. It's your new name. You're not Rek anymore. You're Drek.
It's kind of close to my real name, like Derek, D-Rek, Drek.
That's probably why I keep saying it.
Maybe I'll make a character named Drek. Run with it.
There you go.
You'll be a lot more talkative when she's on, I think. Or real shy. You'll be a lot less talkative.
That's probably more likely.
Just keep it now. And here's Felicia Day. Okay, how you doing? And here's Felicia Day. You know what? I don't even know what she looks like. So I'm just gonna.
She's very pretty.
Oh yes.
Okay.
The lovely Felicia Day.
I typed in FEL to Google, and that came up. And Feliz Navidad and Felicia in college.
She's very popular on the internet, especially. I mean, she's a huge gamer. So she's very well known in the gaming community, and she does a lot to support the gaming community.
Also, I guess she's a redhead, so that
gingers do have souls.
Well, I'm looking at her Wikipedia, and it doesn't appear that she's married, so you have a shot.
There you go. I think she's dating someone, but I don't think she's married.
Well, dating ain't married.
All right, let's move on to a different topic. How about the Copernicus world size, the map that was recently leaked, if you want to call it that?
So, just so I have my story straight, there was a news station that did an interview with Kurt, and for like 30 seconds, they put this map up on their broadcast. And Leo, who runs an alternate fan site, which I can't think the name of off the top of my head, was able to grab that and put it on his fan site and put it on the official forums. And that's where we got it from, correct?
Pretty much, yeah.
Right.
His Leo Irwin, well, I'll call him Leo. I think, what does he go by on his site? Atropus? Anyway, Leo.
I'm not sure.
AmalurFoundry.com is his website. But yeah, it wasn't really like it went up for 30 seconds. The news anchor actually went up and pointed at the map and was like, the Kingdoms of Amalur. And for like 5 whole seconds, it was just him pointing at the map and the camera guy about a foot away from it, which I would assume that they wanted that sort of to, I'll put this in quotes, a leak, because there had to have been someone watching this guy walk around recording things. So,
might have been like, hey, you should stand over there instead.
Yeah, so I can't imagine that they didn't want it to get out necessarily, just because I would have assumed that there would have been, if there was anything that they didn't want out or leaked, they would have been watching him like a hawk. Like, hey, why don't we walk down this hallway? Or the fact that they even talked to him about it. He said that the carpet looks weird. I think it's like brown, green, and yellow or something.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's supposed to represent Amalur in some way. And based off looking at the map, there's some colors in there that look like the rug. So I feel like if they told him, hey, this is what the colors on the rug represent, and then had him stand in front of it, I don't know necessarily that it was leaked. I'll put that into quotes.
Yeah.
So they were at 38 Studios when they did the broadcast.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that ultimately the news station, I mean, I don't know how the news stations work, but I'm sure, like you said, if 38 had not wanted the map getting out, then they would have said something like, hey, this is not something we want leaked. I mean, if it got on the screen, then somehow they made it okay. And even if they didn't, it's out there now. So, I mean, you can see the map. You can't really see a lot. I mean, you can't read, at least I can't read a lot of the names of things. I know I haven't looked at that page in great detail on Leo's site, but I know that he's sort of written out a bunch of stuff of what he thinks is here and there and everything. And I think the main thing is just the concept of the size of the world, which is really the big thing that people have gotten out of it, I think, is, wow, this place is massive. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, reckoning itself, it's massive. So I don't think we would have expected anything less.
Yeah, it's looking, if I had to make a rough guesstimation, this is based off of eyeballing, and I'm not laying or transposing anything. I'd say it's from what the outline that someone drew, maybe 10 times the size of Reckoning, and we don't even know what everything is. That could be preliminary. It's bigger than the map that's on Amalur.com. And so anything that we can actually read on the map, we already know about from there or from like the timeline history. There's, aside from the actual size of the world, there's very few spoilers, if any.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's not. I mean, it doesn't really give away a whole heck of a lot other than, and we can't tell from that how much of that is actually space that we're going to be able to get into,
Right.
That it could be stuff that's part of the map, but ultimately we get into the game and it's someplace that we can't really go or whatever, or like there's a part of it that is there, but they're saving it for future expansions. Hope that's the case. So, me too. I mean, who would want them to give away everything at their very first go? I mean, I certainly would want it to be like a lesser, the playable space I would want to be lesser than what we can see there, certainly when they start out, and that will give them some room to grow. But who knows what they'll do. That could be what we're going to play in the beginning, and they will grow to something beyond what we can see on that map right now. I mean, that's a possibility as well.
Yeah, I hope not all of it we have access to when the MMO launches. I like the idea of a world map that is set up that leaves room for expansion instead of just like a few years into the game after a few expansions, they add a new continent out of nowhere. It's like, oh, right. Okay, where'd that come from?
Well, I'll point out, not that I want to take sides, but there's a whole lot of landmass that had no detail to it whatsoever, and it was sort of grayed out. And from what I'm remembering about the world as a whole, that it's thousands of times bigger than what we have in Reckoning. It's literally the kingdoms of Amalur, meaning that we're getting a single kingdom, and there are multiple that we don't have access to. So I wouldn't be surprised if the map we saw is maybe what comes in the vanilla launch of the MMO, and maybe every single expansion after that's going to be a new kingdom. Or, I mean, it does look like a lot of landmass, but we have no idea how that's set up or what the scale of those zones are going to, if they're even zones. They're broken out, that they look a little bit like the Reckoning zones, and some people were thinking that maybe they were going to be Reckoning-esque zones where, you're going to have like one path to get out of the zone, and it's going to be like a subzone within a larger zone. But I made the point in one of the topics that when Blizzard does their map layouts, they do a lot in the same way, where they'll lay out bubbles and then just draw connecting tunnels. So what we see in that map is at best wild speculation at this point. We know what it's supposed to look like in that map, but as far as what we can actually pull out of it, it's anybody's guess. Unless Kurt comes down and says what it is, nobody could possibly know.
Right. I think at this point, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they purposely leaked it just the way that they did, just so that we can start to sort of wildly speculate about what it's going to be. Because now there's people going off in all directions. Oh, it could be this. Oh, it could be that. We really have no idea. But what it does is it gets us even more excited for the MMO. And ultimately, that's what they want to do. They want us to be excited for that game. So they're going to give us this little bit of information, and we're going to have a fun time talking about it and theorizing what it could be. And ultimately, they're going to come down and say, okay, here's what it is. And then they'll do that same thing with the next thing that we're waiting for. So, I mean, I think it was a really good way, the way they did it, and they gave us a little tidbit about the MMO that we didn't have before, and that's awesome because we are all eagerly awaiting as much information as we can get. And it was cool to see.
If this was intended, I gotta say bravo. That was
for sure.
Okay, so Kurt did post in the thread, but it was about the MMO on consoles and how they're going to be PC and Mac only. I don't think that he necessarily posted anything else.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen him say anything that was specific to information about that map. So I don't think that he has confirmed or denied anything about it, which is probably a good thing. He probably has people holding duct tape over his mouth or over his fingers, so he doesn't give us the information that he desperately wants to give us, that we desperately want to know. And they're just waiting for the thing. I think the thing that we've seen from the very beginning is that, and Kurt, I think either Kurt or Muse posted this on the forums. When they are ready to give us the information, they will. They're not going to wait a minute longer just to hold the information back, but they are absolutely not going to give us that information until they can guarantee that it's what they're going to give us. And so I, as much as I want information about the MMO and I want to hear about it, I would much rather wait a week or a month to get it and know that what they're telling me is what I'm going to get in the end than have them say, this is what we're working on, but inevitably that it might not end up being what we're talking about right now. So, I mean, that's just my own perspective. And I think that's what they're doing. I think they're waiting. I mean, just as much as said, when we can guarantee that what we're telling you is what we're going to give you, we'll give you the information. I don't think she was posting it in response to the world size. I think she was posting it in response to the patch, which, of course, everyone is like, that's the hot topic on the forums these days, is why isn't there a patch out?
Yeah.
Or why isn't there information? Not only that, but why isn't there information about a patch?
Yeah, what's going to be in it.
Right. And so she posted that. And I think that's that's the way to do it, because they obviously do not want to set expectations and not be able to meet them.
Yeah.
And so they have to be careful about giving away information that way. Certainly about the MMO, because, a lot of the circles that I run in, what we are waiting for is the MMO. So.
Yeah, that's me. Reckoning mods. I know you guys don't use any. I don't use any, but they are out there for people interested. On the official forums, they do have a section for mods and such, and looks like there's about 7 mods out right now that people have made. One I wanted to point out was the HeartCore mod. Now, for people who are like desperately waiting, maybe they haven't even played the game because they're waiting for a harder mode for the game, this might be something to look into. This HeartCore. It's not a hardcore, it's heart, like you're beating HeartCore. And it does things like doubles the damage that enemies do, cuts your damage in half, doubles mana cost, reduces the amount of gold you get by 1/3 from selling items or finding it, and a few other things. But
that definitely would make the game harder.
Yeah.
Doing those things. So certainly for people who are interested, I mean, and that is a big thing. There are a lot of people who would love to see the game be harder. So certainly until 38 comes out with something, if they even do, that makes the game harder, that it seems like that would be a good way to go.
Yeah, the author of the mod is Young Neil, and from what I gather from the forums, I don't know who he particularly is, but he did a lot of Two Worlds 2 modding, so I'm sure he knows what he's doing, and even just looking at the updates that he's done since it posted about maybe a week ago. I don't know what the 26th was, a Sunday, so it's not even a week, and the amount of updates that he's done to it has been pretty impressive. I've been following it a little bit. And he's actually got some community-esque stuff involved as well. One of the things I noticed was that it tracks how hard you make the game, from what I gathered, and it'll give you, it uploads or I'm assuming communicates with a server somehow. And so he's doing something for the community. I could read it here: edit difficulty score system and associated titles, join the contest, and get your name written in the list of eternal heroes. So, and that's something that's awesome, is the community giving back and sort of bringing people together to play the game. And
right.
Unfortunately, it's only PC only, but I think that it should give enough people something to do. I know there's a lot of people who don't necessarily want this kind of difficulty. They want smarter mobs, not harder hitting mobs.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think that's outside the scope of what's able to be done by adjusting memory locations. But it's a temporary thing that PC users can use.
If anything, smarter mobs is like something maybe we can push for the next game.
Yeah. Well, see, when we originally discussed difficulty on the forums, one of the things, this was maybe October or September, one of the things that was brought up was what's actually difficulty. Is it harder hitting or is it smarter? And one of the things that I and a couple other people, I think Kefka had mentioned, that AI is really how they want the difficulty to be heightened. What we know from the guide is that difficulty is based off of, I believe, the damage you do to enemies, the damage enemies do to you, the health of the enemies, and then the attack weight of all the attacks in the game. So there's really no room for them to update the AI, I don't think. So I'm really curious to see if the difficulty patch is going to satisfy a lot of people. And really, is it going to do anything different for PC users that the HeartCore mod can't do? So the HeartCore mod, you can adjust things. So the defaults come across, say, enemies do double damage. Well, you can make that real extreme where enemies do 10,000 times the damage. If you get hit, you get one-shotted. Even if they add a nightmare difficulty level to Reckoning, is that A, going to be hard enough for the people who want it really hard? And B, is it going to necessarily be better than a mod that lets you adjust things to exactly how you want? The HeartCore lets you coin drops, you can lessen them, experience gains, everything like that. So having those options there might be something PC users just want to use anyway, because they can really tailor the game to what they want. And I think that's something that sort of to branch off of that, something that 38 and Big Huge Games should keep in mind for their later titles, is mods and really seeing how someone will joke that Bethesda releases unfinished games, but they also give their players that mod kit, and that really lets the players tailor the game specifically to what they want. And I mean, unfortunately, it's just for PC users, who are probably the smallest of the three major markets for Reckoning. But I think that even if you spend the time to do it for that what am I looking for here? That audience, I think it's worth it to do that for them.
And that also may be a reason why people would perhaps buy the PC version of it instead of, or in addition to buying a console version of it. I mean, not that they would do it, like they wouldn't do it to double the number of games that they sell, but if they are able to do something for PC people, I mean, and you really wanted to have a harder game, then you could just get a PC version of the game and be able to make it more difficult for yourself. It's how badly do you want that? Do you want it badly enough to pay for another version of the game? And I think there's a lot of people out there that are yelling and screaming really loud that they want that game to be more difficult. So even if 38 does something compared to nothing, you know, people may be willing to go out and buy a new copy of the game so they can play it harder. And that's better than nothing. But it sounds like this mod that's out, while it may not be perfectly what you want it to be to make the game harder, it certainly sounds like it's going to make the game harder from a certain perspective. And so to me, that sounds like a good option.
Yeah, I think the difficulty patch is really good for console players. I think the PC players might get a little more out of the mod than the patch, depending on what they do. I don't know. They haven't released any details. If they're just adjusting and hard coding in mob hit points or whatever, that might just not be difficult enough for some people, and then the mod would really be where they need to handle it.
Okay, folks, that's about all we've got for you. But before we go, I want to point out some of the things going on the official forums. There's a sketch contest where you can offer your ideas, and an artist, if you get picked, will actually draw your idea. There's also the Capture the Guide contest going on, and if you have a strategy guide, you try to take an interesting picture of that, do a little one-sentence thing about what you liked best about the strategy guide, and they're going to pick 5 winners for that contest. There's some nifty stuff like a Prismeer troll statue, a handful of other strategy guides, and I think you get another piece of concept art or a poster or something. There's also the caption contest going on. I think they do that about once a week. Amalur Captions. They post up a picture from the game, and people try to, put in witty little captions, and I'm not sure what you win from that. Do you guys know?
You get a forum title.
A really cool forum title.
Oh, that's
Silver
right.
Tongue.
All right, and then lastly, there's the Heroes of Amalur. You fill out a bunch of questions, and if you're picked, it's kind of like a community spotlight thing, and they'll put you on the website with all your name and all your answers, so the community will know you exist. All right, and that's about it.
So we just want to thank everyone for listening to us. We especially want to thank 38 Watch for supporting this podcast and this effort. We are super excited at that. You can find them at 38watch.com. We also want to remind everyone to leave us feedback, what you liked, what you are interested in hearing more about. You can leave that at thewellpodcast.com. And remember, that is the way that you can qualify to when the strategy guide that we have is leaving us feedback there. And we will randomly give that away to one person who leaves us feedback. So thanks for listening, and we will talk to you guys next time.
Whoosh! Just did it. Just did it.